Uh-oh. Yeah. Matt Jeezy featuring D-Rec. Bring you to the podcast to your eardrums. Going over all kinds of hot topics.
Matt Geis back in the studio. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brethren. Brother Derek. Brother
How
D-Rec.
long has it been? How long has it been?
It's been about half a year.
Half a year. You were banned from the
Yeah.
studio. It's good to have you back, unbanned.
I said the word heck.
No, but I know there's major renovations since the last time you were in the mix, but
I'm telling
glad to
y'all,
see you back in.
Joe Rogan doesn't have this podcast. What he's been able to do, I feel like I'm at News WOAI Channel 5, some stuff like that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, good, man. Well, I know we want to chop it up. I know there's some topics that we have curated via Chat GPT.
By the way, y'all,
Go ahead.
doesn't Derek look great?
Hey, appreciate it, man.
I've seen him in 6 months. He's losing weight, arms filling out.
You know, trying to,
Looking
trying to get that,
looking
yeah,
strong.
that tricep, you know.
Yeah.
trying to get the abs coming in, you know.
Oh, so what's the inspiration for that?
Inspiration? I think there are certain areas of life that in the coaching, speaking, writing realm, maybe even the podcasting as well, that if aren't dialed in, I feel like fraud. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you're a personal development coach and you're a personal growth coach and you're involved in that arena whatsoever, but then like your body doesn't really match, then that was starting to speak to me. But there was times even when we were podcasting over the last year and a half where I was probably either at my heaviest or right there. And I remember there was times when I was wearing like one of my country western shirts and the buttons were kind of snug and pulling, pulling. And I was like, yeah, that's not a good look, you know.
But potatoes and cornbread and steak.
So like, yeah, doing the carnivore, I think is a big help.
Let's go.
And I think that V filling out is a big deal. Like
you looking at me.
where your shoulders are significantly further from
Like that me?
from your
that me?
from that waist, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's definitely inspiring.
Have you got any feedback from the significant other?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
And she has really modest preferences too. Like she's like, yeah, don't get any bigger. I'm like, I'm not like trying to like get mad. I mean, even I feel like carnivore without the carbs, like getting bigger while getting smaller, like, you know, it's a really rare body type that can continue. You know what I'm saying? You might get early gains, but then eventually it's a not a complete plateau, but that rate of growth is significantly smaller than.
But what if you did get bigger? What would you be like upset?
Yeah, nah, she's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, what will happen is I'll walk out of the weight room because I live here. I'm lifting over in our little exercise room, and then I'll walk out and I just and
Sweat looking like baby oil.
and got that pump in the vein.
You know how to work the lights, hitting you right,
Yeah.
mangles.
And then so.
Oh, I didn't see you there.
The running joke is what seems to be the problem, officer, and like and then with the flex, and then and she'll say something like, "Oh, like you don't even want to be that big because you have that pump." You know what I'm saying? That pump. What do you think will adds like half an inch to your arms as far as like that workout pump when you're in the gym?
Probably something nice. It
Yeah.
feels right.
Yeah.
You feel like
you like.
when
Can
you're
I stay?
walking,
Can I stay right here in this pump right here? Like that's what I'm just trying to get to and stay in there. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's a big thing right there. Okay. So I know we have our core topic, but you also there's something on your heart. So something that I've been trying to tap into a little bit is what's on people's hearts. So I know you have something that was on your mind regarding social media as well.
Yeah, man. I just kind of want to talk about the negative impacts that I don't think people realize that social media has on your life.
Yeah.
quite a plethora. And I feel like this has been a running thing for the past couple of years that it's been on my heart. It's been a topic that I know that I needed to address, but couldn't fully understand why. And I think the more as I experienced these negative effects, I was able to actually identify them more. I think the huge thing is how much dopamine, serotonin, whatever those chemicals that are released in your brain from watching them are, and how much they destroy your ability to be able to concentrate.
Yeah.
Right. At my current job, I work. I'm a recruiter, and I recruit nurses for pediatric patients.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have 5 to, when it gets crazy, 12 people in my what's called a pipeline, which is nurses or people that you're potentially ready to hire.
Yeah.
But then the patients I have are probably no less than 15 to 20. Right. So that's a lot of information to remember. But there was people, I just got off the phone an hour ago, and they'd ask me a question about, hey, what's the schedule they want to work or what side of town, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I take crazy amount of notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I make sure that I can have that information as soon as possible. But I was like, man, like I really feel like this is not normal. Like this level of memory is like terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially for my age. And so I did some research, and yeah, the ability for you to be able to concentrate, it really, really destroys that, which then in turn affects your memory, right? You need to concentrate to be able to memorize things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the amount of things we're able to avoid by turning to social media, the amount of fun and good feeling chemicals that we get from social media allows us to procrastinate, allows us not to feel like we have a fake social life. The things that you need to do and want to accomplish, it makes it so easy to procrastinate, because those things that you need to do are not going to give you that dopamine, that serotonin, those good feelings. It's a cheap hit.
Yeah.
That keeps you coming back from there. And the real hard stuff that's actually going to make you successful and give you those long-term gains, or bring that long-term success. And, those things can be boring in comparison to a lot of those different things.
Yeah.
And so, and especially the social life thing too, I think a lot of people are lonely. I think if you look up statistics, and I've seen multiple podcasts, this is the loneliest generation statistically that people have been reporting to date. And I feel like it gives you this feeling like you're being social, but how many people like don't act, I don't actually want to go out. And then your skills social wise, like you're not able to think as quickly. You're not able to read cues as much, social cues.
Yeah.
Your skills really, really start to degenerate, especially if you don't use them in that real time period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge, there's this red pill this, and there's this independent feminist movement that, or whatever the case may be. A lot of people are complaining on every side, in the middle, in between, and outside, about being single, or the dating market and how it is. And what I've noticed from men on a lot of times is they'll complain about a lot of things. And I'm like, hey, when's the last time you actually approached a girl that you liked?
Yeah.
You have no right to complain. Like, it's like complaining about like wanting to eat food.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't actually tried to go cook it or go buy it at the grocery store.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I know guys were telling me when I'm out, just hanging out, I think this girl is attractive. And I'll be like, okay, well, go approach her.
Yeah.
Terrified. Look of terror. Like,
yeah.
the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, well, like, that's not normal behavior, but I think it really, really has caused us to regress in so many different aspects of our life. But because it's such a new technology, of course, we're not going to know the ways that it affects society. But I think we're starting to get to that point where everyone is starting to recognize, this is kind of destroying society in a numerous different amount of ways.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think the element of, so there's two sides of it. The competitor in me always wants to like be mindful as far as like, hey, what's affecting everybody else? And then, like to win, then all I got to do is not do, you know what I'm saying? Like be off or being able to have more time off of screen than everybody else. And I'm going to have that much more of a competitive advantage as far as like leverage goes. So I think there's that part of me that thinks through, I also think through just in my own life, the amount of victories that have come about when I just shut it all down. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so there's some of us who are like, who make money with new contracts, and it's important to be visible, but still being able and seeing the need and the benefit of shutting all the social media down, quieting all the noise. And then the negative part about doing that immediately is, like you mentioned, the dopamine. The acronym I use is a DOSE, DOSE. And then so each acronym, D stands for dopamine, O stands for oxytocin, S stands for serotonin, and E stands for endorphins. And that's the way I always think about like these same things. And there's a lot of overlap naturally with them. Some people like really dive into like the difference between which one is which and how they come about. Ultimately, the good chemicals that our brain gets when we tap in, when we're all of a sudden removing all of that, then there is a crash or a sadness and a depressing period where I'm not getting that same dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins from the live news or the live drama or what's happening with the NBA or who said what or what's the problem happening right now or what's the latest Andrew Tate take or all of these things. When I shut that down, there is a depression to overcome, because there's a sense of there's a withdrawal, there's a loneliness, there's a loneliness that comes in there. And even when you're talking about like people use it as a substitution for a social life, and it makes me grateful, because a lot of my social life, it's kind of packaged, like I've compared it to going bowling with the bumpers up, right? Like, so the bumpers are up in my social life where for the most Sundays I'm doing church in the morning, right? And then over this past 3 months, started doing softball. It's because my sisters asked me to jump on the team, and then so there's stuff that's now built into my life, and I'm grateful for that plugs me in socially. But even with those bumpers up in my social life, there's still a withdrawal, a sadness that comes from shutting it all down. Even though I've seen the fruit of it, which would be maybe the books right here, among even getting some of the studio built out. There's a benefit of watching a YouTube video to figure out how to find the studs on the other side of the drywall.
Yeah.
But then the detriment or actually executing it is like, I'm not scrolling while I'm drilling. You know what I'm saying? Like you actually have to purposefully stop to get massive things done. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, it's kind of I see the personal benefit it can play to anybody who can effectively shut it down for periods of your life. You can have a tactical advantage over everybody else. But naturally, I also see that shutting it down comes with a cost too, with the withdrawals and the sadness and some of that, the depression symptoms.
That's insane. So it's like an addiction. I think too, there's got to be some times in your life where you're quiet.
Yeah.
And the reason being is you're always changing as a person. You're getting new information. You're adjusting to how you feel. But I know there's been times in my life where I'm like, what if I'm free? I'm listening to YouTube. I'm listening to music. Now I'm on social media. Like I literally haven't given myself any time to understand where I'm at, what I'm feeling, who am I now. I feel like you constantly, that's an important time that you need to have with yourself to be able to analyze how you feel and be able to move forward.
Yeah.
In certain directions. So yeah, man, it's pretty incredible. I've gotten to the point where I deleted my Instagram.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook now where I have less than 100 friends. I mean, they got to be like someone I'm pretty close to be on there. And I don't have anything else.
Do you have a plan as to how long you plan to do that? Is there a time period you're like forever, or you're like, no, this is a season, or this is a shorter time period before I jump back in?
I love that word, season. It's the Christian strong word. This season of my life. No, but I'm thinking of doing it permanently. Yeah, I think it's that damaging. Like I've legitimately seen, like I put my phone down to do something like, find the stud in the wall, like you said, to drill or something. And I'm like, I'm bored. I want it back. I'm like, whoa, like I've just put it down for a second. Why do I feel the need to pick that back up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then me trying to concentrate on school because I'm trying to graduate here soon,
Come on.
and that ability of like, okay, I put that down, I'm gonna get to my school. I'm like, man, I already have that feeling of loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sleep is terrible. Like you have to, if you're constantly getting that dopamine and then it goes away, and then you have to like close your eyes and like think, like you don't want to go to sleep until you're absolutely exhausted, and then you wake up the next day and you feel terrible. Then you're going on caffeine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as we'll get into some of the top things for people to do and what the things that hurt people the most. Sleep, I saw, was on that list. It's so key. So I don't think I'd ever want to put myself back into a position where it's like, especially for people who have ADHD. And we're looking at ChatGPT as well.
Yeah.
It's so bad for people with ADD.
Yes. Now, so then something that I've been joking around with a few friends about is like, have you seen how massive like gambling and betting in this era that we're in right now? Like every podcaster and then like so many people. Again, parlay is a frequent part of the human language right now in our era.
I saw a meme that said girls are becoming so much like men, they're starting to post their parlays.
Yeah.
I actually saw a real girl like, I just won.
So the reason I bring it up is because I find myself, when I hear something, okay, so Matt just says he's off of Instagram. Okay, so what are the betting odds, right? So am I, now if I'm a betting man, what's my bet on Matt Geis? Again, I'm your friend, so I always want to be like, I always be 100% of my friends.
It's your money, dog.
Nah. Right.
Do us right.
But I also think that so many of us have sworn it off forever, and so many of us have came crawling back. You know what I'm saying? And so,
wait, have you gambled?
Like ever?
Well, I guess like it's just recently, and like kind of what you're talking about, or
no. Well, so there's two concepts. I put in the bingo. Does bingo count?
No, look that you and your grandma.
Right. So I've never bet. I guess I've never bet like on the internet. I've bet like friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But even that, I was like, I don't remember the last time. I couldn't quote it to you if there was whatever. Somebody pulled a gun out and said, hey, you got to tell me you're delayed. I was like, I don't know, bro. Like, but the reason I bring it up is, okay, so two things. One, what are the odds? Is there a 50% chance that Matt comes back that I'm just sharing about? If I wasn't your friend and I wasn't trying to show how much I believe in you, like the friend in me says, I believe in everybody 100%. It's better, you're better off. The maybe the locker room guy inside of me goes, I give Matt 25. So okay, 75% chance that he's coming back, 25% that he actually stays off Instagram forever. That would be.
Like, what are we betting on? Okay.
Yeah. So I guess I'm ignorant of the language as far as like how that would, again, the over and under, whatever. I don't really get a lot of that stuff. But my percentages would be something like that if I was the locker room guy who.
So you 75% believe in me or don't believe in me?
25% believe in you would be.
Thanks.
and it's not even because of you, and maybe it's a projection of me.
Oh, because you went back?
Yeah. Because I've gone back and then I've gotten off. I'm going back and gotten off, and I've gone back and forth. So there's a question on longevity. The younger me would just 100% everybody. But then like when you live long enough, you see people go through seasons.
100%.
Yeah.
So the only way I could see myself getting an Instagram back is if I were to start something like we're doing now that would be consistent.
Yeah.
And I would want to market myself.
Yeah.
I could see that, but I would set up extreme rules for Instagram where it'd be like, hey, I install it to post. So I think you can only install it on your phone. I'm not sure. And then, okay, we're immediately uninstalling it like right away.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, I'm kind of cool with because I've limited it to like certain groups that actually help me do my job.
Yeah.
Or just like that, and it's not as addicting. I can easily stay off of that. I've proven that to myself. YouTube, I've unsubscribed entertainment channels, funny channels, pretty much anything. Like I think the few people that I follow is the Diary of a CEO because he has a bunch of experts on there.
Yeah.
Same thing with Chris Williamson, which is like he's like my number one guy right now. Love watching that guy. It's crazy because he doesn't have a crazy personality. It's just the people that he brings on, the questions that he asks are incredible. And there's kind of people like that. Maybe the Patrick Bet David podcast, and
Yeah.
just for a little bit of understanding of what's going on news wise or whatever. But like that's kind of what I've limited myself to. But I don't Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, like these are things media more easily able to get your attention and go down that sinkhole.
Yeah.
I don't
And then
really like
so,
those.
given that you kept YouTube, are you aiming to not press the shorts button?
Yeah, because when I watch YouTube, it's generally for information, especially now.
Yeah.
So I've been watching this guy who went to Harvard, who got burned by Harvard, but then talking about the importance of Harvard. Without, I think they won this World War II. If you've seen Oppenheimer, you kind of know about that. I guess that happened there. I'm not sure. But so many important things. Like, I didn't realize that about Harvard. And then I watched one, this sociologist from the University of Virginia who was also talking about marriage.
Yeah.
So he brought out real statistics, not from the feminist side, not from the red pill side, just like in general, are people happier when they're married? And what things in life are better or not when you're married? And
Yeah.
So that was extremely fascinating. So I feel like I'm learning something that can add value that I can. Hey, when I actually am getting social, if I talk to somebody and these subjects come up, like, man, I have like something to talk about. I have something to talk to. You know what I mean? And then just make me a more capable person in life.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I want to limit it to.
Right. Now, so then the question I had for you was, in this season, right, of your life. So you're single right now?
Yes.
Okay. So then, did that make it harder to delete Instagram? Because I've heard different people say, "Oh, Instagram is the #1 dating app in the world, like better than whatever all these other apps for dating." Have you found that to be one? Have you found the concept to be true in this window of singlehood, where hey, this is actually a really solid place for me to meet people? And then, so the quote of #1 dating app in the world, I think like the Tates say something like that. Oh, it's Instagram. Now, again, that's like a different kind of like lifestyle potentially,
Sure.
But what are your thoughts about it? And then is it relevant for you at all? And then was it a pull on your heart to give it up, given that, hey, I'm single right now, and this might have been the time to meet people on Instagram for romantic connection?
Yeah, I 100% would think I've ever used Instagram to ever talk to any girl that I didn't absolutely know.
Yeah.
I think especially when I started, returning back to my Christianity beliefs and roots and trying to live that out, I unfollowed every girl that would cause me to lust.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm not trying to follow girls that I find attractive on there, unless they're dressed modestly and they're bringing some kind of
hashtag
value.
modest Christian woman or something. I don't know.
Search. No, I didn't do that. So Instagram wouldn't be a place for me. Now that's another great question, because there are places for that and other apps, other social media networks,
Yeah.
such as Bumble, such as Tinder, such as even Upwards, which is like Christian Mingle. So to answer that question, I did have a Bumble, but God had convicted me in this part of my life. I don't want to date or pursue. I think if I meet someone in real life and it's pretty obvious that it's from God, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just deny,
Yeah.
But the space in my life where I feel like, one, I've given so much in my last relationships and I haven't felt that reciprocity.
Yeah.
It's put me in a place where I feel burned out. I forgot about the sound effect. It's made me feel burned out.
Yeah.
And if I don't feel like putting in effort, which that's all a relationship is about, this is giving and receiving, of course, too.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And sacrifice is what? Naturally giving. So if I'm not feeling that, I don't think I have business for that. That, and also think too, my relationship with God has been probably non-existent in past couple of months. And I think that's something I really want to get back to.
Yeah.
And making that more important. What I also notice is because I think in my past life, I was so intent on learning and on like attraction techniques and talking to girls and things of that nature. I think it's at this point in my life, it's actually easier to talk to girls than guys. No matter the attraction level that they may be perceived, it's just something I feel like I have more experience with.
Yeah.
So in this portion of my life, I'm like, man, how do I make friendship with men?
Yeah.
So I'm starting to really value the different things that they bring. And I don't think I've actually thought about this in my head. This is kind of something like, oh man, I got to organize these thoughts out of what that actually is bringing me. But it is definitely bringing me, more wisdom, more interactions that are more genuine, not wanting anything from, I can't say nothing. It's weird when people say that because even if you give something to someone, you still receive a feeling of doing something good for someone else, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's something there, but not in any kind of attraction way or with any kind of goal in mind as far as like making a friend, or whatever. So I really want to take this time in my life. Like I was at the gym the other day and I started talking to these two guys next to me. And one's like a rapper / comedian. Actually had a really amazing song. I didn't delete Instagram at this point. It's like maybe 2 weeks ago, and I reposted him on there. And the other guy potentially might get his resume and try to help him out for my own recruiting thing that I'm doing now.
Nice.
But it was just it for me. That's the kind of space I'm at. Like, hey, how do I feel like social interactions are almost not a game, but it's a skill that I want to develop, and because meeting people is extremely important, not for career-wise and connections and networking. No, like if you look at the happiest people and people who live the longest and the healthiest people, all have to do with their social circle. And I'm at a belief, because just maybe past experience in my life, that I have almost zero friends from my childhood that are still here today.
Yeah.
Like one family, the Harvey family, shout out to them. So I have grown to not be so super attached to people, which actually I think this is healthy. I'm not be super attached to people that I meet now. And instead I'm like, man, I enjoy the time that I have with you. And that's it. I don't expect you to stay and be here for forever. I loved you and the time that we had. And, now that's just life. People just go in separate directions and move on. And it hasn't affected me negatively when that happens. It's like, man, I hope that brother, that sister, whoever is blessed now. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. No. That makes sense in processing the relationship, Instagram. Probably a separate topic, but the idea of is what you were describing the idea of transactional relationships? Like you were saying, like it made it seem like you were trying not to be as transactional, or like maybe lowering the expectations you have of the duration of the relationship, or even what they give to you, or is that just romantically? Romantically, you're trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to connect, even if they don't give back, or
yeah. So I think anytime that you're talking to a girl that you're attracted to, there's always that thing in you that has this like small, at least some kind of small desire to see where that could flourish or whatever. Lately, the interactions I've been having with women that I find attractive, that are strangers, because I've been trying to be social everywhere that I go because I'm not on social media now. So we're in line at Chipotle, girl or guy, like I'm gonna try to have a conversation with you. Like everybody in line doing the cell phone thing, like I'm gonna end that. Like we talking now. Because I believe that's just healthy and that's just the way society should be. But because of cell phones. So I've had really great interactions with extremely attractive females as of lately. Haven't asked for the number. Haven't tried to progress with them in any shape or form.
Yeah.
I mean, even I went to church on Saturday by myself, and I wanted to sit in the very front because every time I go with friends on Sundays, someone's late or they're just sitting up in the back, and I really wanted to go just for me. Nobody besides me to focus on me and God. The only place to sit in the very front, and I was 15 minutes early, was with an extremely attractive, Christian woman there.
Yeah.
We talked. shared a couple laughs, talked about a little life. How can I pray for you? Okay, boom, 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 bye. Didn't ask for anything. Besides, how can I pray for you? That was it.
Yeah.
I said
that's Matt with that spiritual game right there. So how can I pray for you? How can I get it? I know. Hey, on this angle of the camera, you're a little bit out. So if you moved a little bit closer to the table,
okay.
you'll be completely in the shots.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Does that answer the question? I kind of went on a tangent.
It does. It does. So, then the reason for not asking for the number. So is that what people ask for? Is the number still asked for, or is it you ask for the Instagram, or is it?
Well, I wouldn't ask for that because I don't have one anymore.
Right, but before.
Yeah. I think it would be just. I think if I didn't take the girl serious, and I just kind of wanted to connect. Who knows? Maybe if we like what each other's post or something, I would get an Instagram. But if I actually wanted to pursue something with you, I would ask for a phone number.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you didn't ask for the phone number at church on Saturday because you're not trying to be in a relationship right now?
Well, I'm not trying to do something transactional, right? I feel like the spirit that I need to have needs to come from a place of not what can I get from this person or what can this potentially turn into. It needs to come from a spirit of how can I be a blessing to somebody else's life. And in this stage of my, I mean, that's not saying I'm going to do that forever.
Right.
Obviously, when I'm ready to date,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, especially a Christian sister, you don't see that too often. But no, it needs to come from a spirit right now because I don't feel ready to invest all my energy into something like that, and I want to build my relationship with God. And then that's the question I kind of had about reaching out. Because I'm not stable at a place yet. But that's another topic, for later. But yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think I wrestle with rules. And so I guess I hear the rule is.
But it's not a rule though.
Okay. So what would you call it?
Because if I just would have felt like this is from God, like it just seems to be flowing in that direction.
Yeah.
I could have potentially went down that route. I haven't said for sure we are not doing this and this is the thing we're in our life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, if something comes and I'm like, man, this just feels too natural and easy, then okay, I'll see if that's what God has in store for me. You know what I mean? But it's not gonna be at a point in my life where I'm just like, man, I'm pursuing this thing because I don't feel ready to give all of that, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
right.
It have to be extremely evident, like, oh, it's got to be from God, because I don't even feel like I'm ready at this time in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think when I've asked myself the question about, and that's a whole maybe topic to get into and breaking down that transactional perspective. I think I'm probably on the extreme side of believing my relationships are transactional, and then also believing that's okay. Like, is my marriage transactional? I think it is. And is that problematic? I don't think so. But it's kind of like it's interesting.
Well, I think what I would be getting out of that is, wow, I have really confidence in my social skills and abilities. Wow, look how I just met, that girl in the front row, and we had a really pleasant conversation. And if I wanted to go that direction, I probably could have. And that's definitely a self-esteem, a boost for sure. But I also think, like, man, when I want to evangelize, like that could be useful for guy or girl or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's also like, hey, I know relationships are a key, one of the most important factors of happiness, contentness, longevity, health, mental health.
Yeah.
So me developing these skills, seeing anything you want to be good at, you got to see multiple interactions of that said thing. And then, oh, what could I do better? Or what didn't go right here? Oh, I know not to say that again. That offended XYZ person.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely think there's like nothing I'm getting out of it. You know what I mean?
Right,
but I'm not going in there with intent like, oh yeah, I'm finna find this future wife, like, or like, what can I get out of it attraction wise, to feed my lust, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think I haven't arrived at a point of arrived or pursued trying to get to a point of not receiving anything out of relationships. I think there's always something like in my brain, even like you
100%.
said it.
Yeah.
But and I'm not sure if I have an issue with. I think scripturally there's like, which is actually one of the scriptures I've never. Is that accurate? Yeah, I would say I've never lived out as it's described. And the passage is from the book of Luke, and the idea is when you throw a banquet, it says, "Do not invite your rich neighbors, do not invite your rich friends, invite the crippled, the poor, the beggars, and they're never going to be able to repay you for you throwing the banquet for them, but at the resurrection you'll be repaid." So this is the idea is one of the times in the scriptures where it's like, don't expect to be repaid for this gesture that you're giving to these people. Now, for me, I don't extrapolate and connect that same principle to every single other principle in Christianity. I know Christians that do. I just don't. And again, I respect people that do. That think, oh, I don't want to ever expect anything out of it. And I think there's a value. I can see the value in that. People who genuinely live life where it's like not trying to get anything, not trying to ask for anything from people. I think I don't think exactly like that.
Well,
but yeah,
it's funny that you said, how can I pray for people when you made that comment? When I've been asking people, how can I pray for you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it was in my actual conscious, I'll be thinking, man, I sound so Christian right now to these Christian people. Let's go.
Yeah.
Or I'll be thinking, wow, this person's going to think I'm a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, these thoughts are stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But am I going to walk away with the feeling of doing something good? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my motivation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think anything that you do is going to have negative and positive reactions, consequences.
Right. No, I got you. Well, good. Nice little intro.
Yeah. I appreciate you, brother. Let me start off with that.
All right. So I'm sure we're going to weave some of that into the mix. But yeah, you asked me about my physique. What's inspiring? Maybe we'll keep the intro a little bit longer. Your physique, your motivation for physique and all that. I know you had mentioned, I think before, yesterday, you were talking about cutting from 205 down to 190.
Yeah, I think for me and getting to the first time me being this old, but seeing as my metabolism slows down,
yeah,
I feel like when I don't lift weights or at least do something exercise wise, my body starts to hurt. There's a lot of I start to get fat.
Yeah,
I can't eat as much.
You can't eat as much.
Yeah. I actually eat more and would probably keep the weight down versus when I don't work out at all and I'm very sedentary, I eat less. And yeah, so I feel like it's imperative to my health. And then there's just been something in me. Like I remember a couple times I started to get I started to work on my 1-pack.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we don't do this. Like there's just something in me that's like feels shame.
Yeah.
Like, and it wouldn't be what someone else thinks. It's like, man, this is what I think about myself. I'm a terrible person. Like,
yeah.
like, yeah. So, I had to lose it right away. So it's not for like, I would say super vanity. I'm sorry. Like, again, you get some of that, with it. But a big part of it is like, man, I just don't want to feel terrible. Like, in my own body, so.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I like it. Respect. Well, good. All right. Intro over. Moving into the main course. All right, we asked ChatGPT for about this question about being married, and we asked ChatGPT. We said, "Tell me the top 10 reasons married men hate being married," and we also asked ChatGPT, "Tell me the top 10 reasons single men hate being single." I suppose I'll read off.
Married. Or we're gonna switch
one by one. I'll read number one on the married side, and then we'll talk about it, and then and maybe we'll have some discussion about it, and then after that we'll go to the number one on the single side. All right. So we're going to read ChatGPT's disclaimer. It says, it's important to note that not all married men hate being married. Of course, right? It says,
Amen.
and reasons can vary greatly. And maybe I'll put this on the screen so people can see this if they're wanting to read along.
Kind of small
Let's see if we can make that a little bigger for them.
for the people. Man of the people. Derek thinks the people at home are blind.
I mean, you said kind of small. We went all the way, bro. All right.
Just messing with you.
However, here are some potential reasons that some married men might find marriage challenging. So political, so politically correct and precise. All right. Number one, loss of freedom and independence.
Their wife is communism.
All right, you wanna respond to this one, or you want me to go first? Loss of freedom.
Yeah, you go first.
And independence. Interestingly, so I read this and then I break down what does that mean. So what's the freedom drop down menu? What's the independence drop down? The subcategories. So freedom and independence is really broad. So freedom to do what? Like what can married men not do that a single man can do? So for sure, even the situation you painted earlier, the social situation of going up to an attractive woman, pursuing a conversation, getting a phone number, or getting an Instagram, whatever.
Oh, that's
handle.
she wanted to study the Bible.
Right. So like all
No.
of these things, a married man does not have the freedom and independence to pursue other attractive women, maybe with the exception of Islam. I guess you could have 4 wives. I think that's the idea.
Some Mormons.
Some Mormons, yeah, some extreme, probably on the extreme side. But for the most part, married men in the U.S., I think it's law. I think, right? I think maybe in Utah,
Yeah, only marry one person.
yeah. So anyway, all that to say is I think all of the vows of all the weddings I've ever been to, the vows are part of it is the commitment to one person until death. So anyway, so maybe I'll personalize it and go, is this valid for me? Is it valid for others? As I talk to married men, again, this doesn't mean every single married man I talk to when people go, oh, I know the kind of married friends you have. No, but the beauty and power of the married friends that I have is we do want to have honest conversations and be real, and then so we also want to be transparent about temptations that we have, and then so or even the grief that we have in no longer being single to be able to pursue a woman that we meet or see and see what comes out of it. There's the excitement of the unknown. There's the challenge. There is the even meeting somebody and seeing how they set up their home or their apartment, meeting their family for the first time and seeing, can I get them to like me or not? All of that is out the window and no longer on the table for a married man. So I can see on this part of it, not just me, but other married men as well, how there's that challenge of I am limiting my pursuit of a romantic relationship only to this one woman in my marriage, and that can be a challenge. Make marriage something that I could see how men could hate that part about marriage.
Yeah, in the beginning of a relationship, that's a lot of the dopamine, serotonin, all those good feelings that you naturally get, usually only in the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah.
And then it's that mystery. And then, oh man, I'm getting to know this new person. Oh, I didn't know that about them. You're constantly discovering.
Yeah.
It's easy to discover. You still discover things about your wife, but it's less frequent than when you get to know someone. And just all those new explosions of feelings and discovery. And yeah, that's something for sure that you could repeat over and over and over again. But I think married people forget is if they've ever done that with new girls over, and then like it fails, and then you do it again, and then it fails, and you're just like, or it doesn't work out, or like that gets old. That feeling that I thought is terrible, and it always made me be like, yeah, I don't think I want to be this. I don't know how other people do that. It just made me feel empty inside.
Yeah. So you're saying almost in what maybe what I'll even describe as this is it seems that there's a human nature that people want what they do not have. So married men want to be single men want to be married, and there's this interesting dance that I see among my single friends, among my married friends. Again, it's not 100%, but there is that temptation to whatever I don't have to crave that or to covet what I don't have or to envy what I do not have. So the idea then of you're saying is, I think you're providing a reality check of having gone through that, how it can get old with that, whether people call it that honeymoon process. Period, that of the emotional, the euphoria of the newness wearing off, and then doing that again and again and again.
You know how many people I've actually heard tell me, guys and girls, man, I'm tired of getting to know someone new again.
Dang, bars, bro. I'm tired of getting to know someone new again.
Yeah, I'm tired of starting over.
Yeah.
I don't want to start over anymore.
Yeah, no, and that part, when my wife and I are having conversations and I'm thinking about how well trained she is.
Why do you laugh exactly like it in real life? It's a little bit happier.
Yeah. So she is so well trained that the amount of effort, time, the amount of sacrifice it would take on my part to help anybody to know everything that she knows, like, it'd be ridiculous.
I think people would get offended at the word train.
Which is one of the reasons I like using it, but go ahead.
But my mom always used to tell me, you always teach people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So in a sense, that word could be offensive to a lot of people, but we're both people are training each other.
For sure.
Hey, this is a boundary I have. Oh, this is a boundary I have. Oh, don't do this, don't do that.
Yes. And the reason I like it, because the funny thing is
tension.
That too, but
what'd you say?
So let's say everybody in the world has a problem with it. Everybody.
Okay. All right.
But I'm not married to everybody else. I'm married to my wife. And if my wife is cool with it, then everybody in the world can have a problem with it. The
so
one person
would you go in public and be like, yeah, you're trained, right, babe?
Yeah, and even if I would neglect that I'm also trained, and even if I would neglect to say that, and I say she's trained, I also have to understand that I'm trained,
sure,
and people have told me that as well.
Yeah.
Like, so the idea, I remember I was sitting at Nationwide one time, and my desk is real neat and organized there, and then somebody had put a cup on my desk, and I have some coasters. Even at Nationwide, I took to work, so I went and put a coaster in, so the drink doesn't leak on my desk.
And they didn't even use it.
No, I physically did it and put it, and then somebody else whose drink it wasn't saw that, and then they said, "Oh, like your wife has you well trained," and I was like, "No, that's exactly right. Like, she's the one that taught me about the coasters." So no, it's a complete accurate statement about being well trained. And even she went on further to explain. She said men are so much easier to train and to understand what they want and to satisfy what they want compared to women, in her opinion. So all of that to say is, to your point, it sounds romantic from the outside. Oh, this new relationship, euphoria. Yes. But the reality of building a relationship with somebody, there's so many things that you don't like of what people do. And having to teach somebody that all over again, having to train somebody that all over again for them to know all the things that annoy you and to not do, it's quite a task. It's quite a calling. So for us, my wife and I, we've been married 10 years. We've been together for over 12 years. That's 12 years of life.
If you think about it, that's only one aspect of a relationship. That's not including personalities.
Yeah.
All a bunch of other things that you can only do when you're married. So many other different aspects of marriage. Like, oh, all of this has to come together.
Yeah.
To make one person that I'm gonna.
Right.
That's a lot.
And even like, so the biblical calling on men, part one of them is be considerate with your wife. Like, to think about her feelings, her perspective, her preference. You're thinking about her in the marriage dynamic. So, but in 12 years of thinking about it, is early on, what being considerate means is asking her, hey, like, what do you think about this? But then, like, with time, I've asked her so many times, I pretty much can tell you what she thinks or what her preference is about virtually anything. There's times when we can read each other's minds because we've been in enough situations and circumstances to know, hey, how was that one time that this happened, and how does she feel right now? I know she's uncomfortable. We sat down. I'll give you another story. We sat down with a friend one time, and then he had made a few remarks, and I know her enough. I don't have to look at her. She's uncomfortable, and he has no idea. Do I tell him, hey, I'm gonna let you? Hey, just so you know, I'm I know you. But I know when remarks like that are made, my wife gets a little bit uncomfortable about it. And then he had got defensive. He's like, "Oh, why don't you let her talk for herself?" I said, "I can't. I don't need to, but I can, and I will to share her opinion. But I know her so well. I know it makes her uncomfortable. But go ahead and let him know." And then she lets him know. Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. And then he got uncomfortable and left lunch and was like, "Hey, I'm out of here."
That's right. You punked him.
But it's like.
I like that your wife had your back, because the wife could have felt social pressure.
Yeah.
Not saying anything about your wife, just someone in general could have felt that social pressure and not wanting to be like, oh, feeling awkward in that moment.
Right.
So
No,
it went against you.
She felt awkward, but she was like, hey, but it was accurate. We go ahead.
But yeah, it's like she had your back.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's super important.
It wasn't even about my back. It was just the truth. The truth is she felt uncomfortable. She didn't have to make that up. You know what I'm saying?
But I know people that who would have lied and said,
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah,
don't want that person to feel like I'm mad at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you look like, what?
Yeah.
Now y'all are talking.
Right.
Deliver.
But it's just like all of those social interactions have provided a learning ground of, hey, how does she feel in different circumstances and situations? How do I feel about certain situations and circumstances? And then what to expect and how to teach each other, how to help each other. And I have a chapter in my marriage book, and it's about setting each other up for success. The idea is when any one thing happens in life, I think one of the stories I tell even in the beginning is, could you predict this, my preferred sandwich the way I prefer to like right now in my life? You probably could not. But the idea is it's hard to predict exactly what somebody likes on the spur of the moment when so many things change in life.
Yeah, 100%.
But if I ask, so if my wife forgot her lunch and her lunch money at home and went to work, and she came home, what do I do? Do I empathize? Do I offer solutions for next time? Do I pray with her? Do I put a sign up for her to remember? You know what I'm saying? There's so many options of what you could do.
Lord, let her make a better sandwich.
Right. Or I could just ask, hey, like, is there anything you're looking for me? You just want me to listen and understand you?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to help you for the future? So then the idea is, if we could set each other up for success, but if you've been doing that enough times, I know what sets her up for success. She knows what sets me up for success.
Having the peanut butter ready.
Yeah.
Having that knife cleaned and shined. Ready for the jelly. Oh, you use sandwich.
Yeah, well,
the preparation.
The setting was she forgot
Apron.
she didn't forget to make it in the setting I painted. It was she forgot her lunch and her lunch money at home, so it was already made.
All I heard was
in
sandwich.
my head.
And I was like, oh, in your head. All we heard was sandwich. Was like misogyny.
But yeah, no. Thanks for popping that bubble of, oh yeah, the freedom that I'm missing out on. But then like you're like the freedom
to
you have.
start over. What's that?
No, it's helpful. It's legitimately ministers to, again, that sinful nature, that flesh part of me that will fantasize about that. Goes, oh, that part of me just got punked. So thanks for your perspective. It helps.
Thanks for punking.
Yeah. Thanks for punking the worst part of me.
Like you punked that guy at the place.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to any other comments on freedom and independence, or do you want to go to the single side of the conversation?
Oh, single? Okay, yeah, sure. Single, yeah.
Cool. All right. Go ahead and read.
There's some potential reasons why some single men might find single challenging. Loneliness and lack of emotional support.
You just start crying.
No, because I have some pretty deep thoughts on that. I feel like Russell Brand said one time, if it's taking you longer than 2 to 3 weeks to get over a relationship, it's because you put something in that person that defined who you are. Something of the sort of that. So I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, once I find this person, that person will complete me.
Mm.
And that's something you need to do on your own, before you meet someone, or of course, find that through God. But I also think that it comes to like getting to know yourself and love yourself as well. So now that's not to say that you can't. Of course, it would bring that, especially when you're married to someone. You're with them, every day, or if you're a girlfriend, hopefully you're talking at least every day. But I think too, that can be a crutch. Like there's a lot of, I think we talked something about the amount of average friends married people have is 0.
0?
Yeah. And so I think during that time period, like where is your network of friends? If you don't really have any, what are you doing to change that? I think social skills, people assume that that's something that is natural. And if you don't have social skills, you can't learn them, which is entirely and completely false.
Yeah.
There's so many books, so many YouTube channels. Like if you wanted to learn about flirting, you could watch a lot of Craig Ferguson on late night. If you wanted to learn about how to read people, I just read this whole book and I don't even remember the author's name, but there's a book on that. If you wanted to learn about sales, you could watch Grant Cardone, Elliot, whatever his name is, the car salesman one. Or if you wanted to learn how to make friends or build, even there's actual things of like how to build a social circle or network of people. Like anything that you want to learn, you could actually do it and go practice it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, I was so insecure. I actually went downtown just to talk to people, like literally get reps in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And do things that I've read and implement them. Right. So I'm not coming to someone like, oh, you can learn it. Just trust me. I'm a natural. No, like, yeah, I do have a lot of natural abilities in me. I won't lie.
Yeah.
But there was a time in my life where I was like, man, I got into sales, right? I really wanted to learn how to be able, and I don't mean manipulate in a negative way, but essentially I wanted to navigate social situations to go into my favor, either for friendship, for attraction, for sales, for whatever the case may be. But you can learn it. Anyways, that's kind of outside of the thing. I just don't feel like that you should 100%, once I get this relationship with this girl or with this guy, I'm going to be not lonely anymore. Right? Isn't there a quote that says the loneliest people are the people that are surrounded by people and still feel lonely, or there's some kind of quote like that. But yeah. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I like what you said about ultimately you're describing like expectations, like the expectation like of what you think it's actually going to be. Like the expectation of the emotional support you're actually going to receive. So you think you'll have more emotional support in marriage. You just described something that was interesting. So let's say
you could.
Well, let's say if that data you were talking about, married people have 0 friends. So if your wife, an imperfect person, who is married to you, the imperfect person, and you're having some imperfect moments, which is some conflict, and then so she's not going to support you when you just hurt her. She's going to be trying to recover, heal, and go through the process of bouncing back. So she's not going to be your emotional support, but then you have 0 friends. So yeah, like the single person could potentially have had friends and not be married, but have more. Yeah, to your point, you could potentially have more emotional support as a single person than as a married person, because in a married person, when you have conflict, and it's normal to have conflict when you're learning about each other, then for you to not have. So that's why it's really important when people get married, like the encouragement I know that my wife and I give to people is like, yeah, like try to like keep your single friends strong. And what I've learned is single friends sometimes don't know how to continue the relationship after you're married. They don't know, oh, he's married and he doesn't have any time. Actually, again, the single people should think is he's married, now he needs me more than ever to support, to encourage, to build up. So I think about, I think to this idea of the expectation of the emotional support you're going to have in marriage, it's just another friend. And by the way, when she rejects you or she hurts you or she goes and disrespects you, that's going to be more of a challenge, more of a mountain, more of an obstacle to overcome than when anybody else does it. So I totally can see how single people could have more emotional support than married people.
That was a bar that you said. You potentially single people could be less lonely and have more emotional support than someone who's married,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I could easily see how that would happen.
Yeah. And then,
That's a bar.
and the assumptions that people make. You make the
Yeah.
assumptions because I'm married that I have all the emotional support. You don't know how much conflict we're going through. You don't know that this is
No
a season
idea.
right now.
They look great in public.
Yeah.
There's so many people I know that look great on social media or great in public. And then there was very close friends I had, and I saw it. I'm like, nobody knows. Y'all have the worst
Yeah.
relationship ever.
Right.
They probably go to you for advice, and they probably shouldn't.
Right. Well, the good thing about the advice part of it, there's this principle that some people have called the King Solomon complex, or the King Solomon is the idea is this guy in the Bible wrote the Proverbs and wrote Ecclesiastes, wrote Song of Songs. So he's ability to give insight about what makes someone successful is off the charts. You know, the scriptures tell us that he was the wisest who ever lived. However, his personal life was a mess. But
I see that so often.
But they've done studies on it as well. Like the ability for us to give advice that's better than that we live has also been proven as well. Like, I'll give you better advice than I actually live by.
Yeah, I have I love this girl named Sadia Khan. I don't know if you ever follow her. She has a psychology degree. She used to teach at a college. She comes from a Muslim background. She actually did an interview with Andrew Tate, and they got along really well. One of the people thought, she's going to interview with women, it's going to go super south. But they actually kind of agreed on a lot of different things. Anyways, this lady, Sadia Khan, she was absolutely amazing why things are the way that they are and actually what's happening that most people don't know about in today's dating market.
Yeah.
Then she'll talk about her own dating life, just like, oh, I'm toxic. You're like, what? Like, you're just teaching people how to be untoxic. And she's like, yeah, but I have these issues and da-da-da-da.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, I know I'm not like the greatest person in the relationship. I'm like, how do you have all the knowledge that you can't implement it? It's so crazy.
Yes. And I was just having a conversation with a friend about this idea that, like, you think for some reason that therapists have all the solutions until you know therapists who've gone through divorces. Then it's like, okay, now it broke that belief. It broke the belief that therapists have all the answers. And sometimes, even I was talking to a friend about this idea that in therapy, oftentimes, if a husband and wife are together, the therapist is going to help them to both take accountability, both take action. Yet in the scriptures, it seems to be a little bit different, especially as us as husbands have Jesus as the example of what a husband is to do. And we were talking about time horizons in this idea that Jesus sacrificed every bit of himself, every convenience, every comfort to include his very last breath for the bride. Now, we are part of the bride. So then how long did it take me to respond to him doing everything perfect for me, every single sacrifice? So, like, let's say the time horizon, do you count it from my birth? Do you count it from the worst part of my sinful life, maybe when I was 13, 14, 15? And then the time that I actually responded, I wanted to put him first. Maybe that's 2, 3, 4 years, if you count it from 13, 14, 15. Or is it from birth and it was 17 years? Or do you count it from when, the time when he died versus when I made that decision? Either way, in therapy, it seems that like there's almost equal opportunity to both partners. But on the side of Jesus, it seems like he does so much first with the hope of you responding in the right way. So it would be like a therapy session, husband and wife.
That's
okay,
true.
hey, we're going to give you all of the responsibility. And then with the hope that you be Jesus and that she would want to respond to your love, to your sacrifice, to you giving up every convenience, every comfort so that she can respond to your love.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting way to think through what the expectations would be even in a therapized world, but how we're just wired to give better information than we even live by.
I think, too, even though you could have so much knowledge and so much wisdom, I think most relationships end because people don't feel seen or heard. And there are conflicts in relationships when you say, hey, this is my issue that I'm facing. And she goes, well, this is the issue that I'm facing between y'all. And they just can't be solved between the two of you. She feels disrespected because of XYZ. You feel disrespected because of whatever she did on this side. And those two people are unwilling to just understand the other person and actually implement what needs to be changed, because maybe it goes against their boundaries, goes against their principles, or goes for something. So a part of me doesn't even blame or think, oh, this therapist got a divorce. Like, well, people change.
Yeah.
And that they could have came into that conflict and it was just, hey, I'm not going to feel respected unless you do this. Well, hey, that goes against my boundary. Oh, okay. Well, then like this is constant
Yeah.
friction. So,
well, you know what the interesting thing about boundaries is? I've asked myself the question is, would you say, back to Jesus? So in therapy, it's one thing. We talk about boundaries, values, and all these things. But like,
yeah.
wouldn't Jesus almost seems to be the opposite of like, oh, here's my healthy boundaries. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, but I think he kind of destroys the notion on what would be the Christians would say on the man's side or the husband's side of the ship. Like, okay, here are my boundaries. Like, and I think he gives the teaching like, yeah, marital unfaithfulness. Hey, you could get out of the marriage. That's a grounds for divorce. But the idea of Jesus not having boundaries and allowing himself to be tortured again to the point of death out of love. So it's an interesting thing when I think about a man talking about boundaries, which it's a wrestling match. I understand it therapeutically, psychologically, but when we begin having the conversation of biblically a man having boundaries inside of a marriage, it's a wrestling match of what that might look like. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, but don't understand why. God not having a boundary of letting himself be tortured. I don't see how that relates to the marriage.
So let's play out like a potential boundary that somebody could have and then somebody could cross. So, okay, the most extreme example inside of a marriage, a man is being abused by his wife physically. Okay. What does he do? Like, clearly we're not talking about like, he has a boundary. Hey, if you do this, I'm out. But like we see Jesus being abused. Like that's what his death was, right? It was abuse.
Okay.
Right?
I'm gonna follow you.
So this idea of, I think in therapy we would say something I think like this. It wouldn't be a far-fetched conversation to go, hey, if she abuses you, get out of the relationship. She's gone too far.
Yeah, 100%.
Jesus, hey, if they get physically violent with you, go ahead and cut it off. It's the experiment's gone too far.
Sure.
You don't have to go that far. But again, we're talking about on the man's side of the relationship. Like, if they're going after the purity of trying to give up their lives, they get like, and then now she's supposed to be following Jesus too, so she's not supposed to be doing that. But again, it just makes me think about the biblical justification for a man having boundaries. It's a really fascinating thing that I have difficulties justifying a man's boundaries because of how much Jesus put up with in his sacrifice.
So what would you do if you got hit?
Good question. So would let me try to like, I think it's not like, hey, let me just let her keep going. But it's also like not like defending myself. It's more like probably providing distance and space so like she could process and all that. But that was the extreme. And again, but the idea of maybe another boundary would be, let's go more light. A boundary is your wife takes so long to get ready, so you're always late for church. So then the advice was have a boundary of 10 o'clock. You actually drive away. She has to go by herself in her own car. So there's a boundary. She has to be ready by 10 o'clock. If she's not, minute late, you drive off. These are real sources
Yeah, I
of
can see that.
conflict.
I can see that.
Okay, so the question is, this is more light, not as extreme. It's not like in this example he has any responsibilities at church. It's just he doesn't want to be somebody who shows up late. So what he's sacrificing is the way he looks, his image. So the therapist might
By
say,
showing up by himself? Where's your wife?
so right. This and this idea is,
Oh, let her drive by herself. You know we live together. Like,
yeah, like and that's not too far fetched
she was late.
in church for people showing up.
He snitches on her.
But the boundary, again, if we're taking it back to Jesus, is Jesus was willing to look bad in front of people in displaying his ultimate willingness to sacrifice. That man who maybe they created a therapeutic boundary in the relationship, so he's not ticked off at her. He can leave at 10 o'clock if she's not ready.
I got an idea.
What you got?
So if you have to leave by 10 o'clock, you said? If she goes 10:10 and the alarm's set for 9 o'clock, now it's 8:50. However many minutes you're late by, that's how many minutes you got to wake up early the next week. And then
Yeah.
you could wake her up with like kisses and love and like maybe breakfast.
Yeah. Well, chronically late people,
Help her get ready faster.
the earlier time isn't actually the issue as far as it's almost like this concept of I have so much time so I can do so much more with this time, but then I actually don't have that much time. So if I have 10 more minutes and I can organize my closet with that extra 10 minutes. So you just filled it with something else.
You make her a checklist and you follow her around. It's not on the checklist. Solutions.
So that would be more responsibility on the husband, which again, that's more of the line I'm going down is, and I haven't had many conversations, but about men.
I think I'm
boundaries.
understanding your point now. So she's always eating your food that you say she can't eat, or keep stealing your hoodies.
That's certainly on the more petty side and not as significant side, but yeah.
But yeah, like I see what you mean by that. It took me a while, but yeah, I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Cool.
Always do the next one.
Next one. And we'll share the screen so people could see that. Number 2 on reasons men hate being married. Married men hate being feeling trapped or constrained by marital responsibilities. Is that just kind of another way of saying number 1?
Sort of.
How would you delineate number 2 from number 1?
I go back to thinking about when I was married, and I don't remember having these feelings. So yeah, there was a huge amount of difference in responsibilities, but I loved it. I felt like, I don't think I've ever felt more like a man than when the first time I said I do. It's like, man, I'm responsible for another person's.
Why didn't you invite me, bro?
I didn't invite anyone, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Should have told me right there what would have happened with that. For real though. But I never remember feeling, oh man, I got to do all these things as a husband. I think those were the things I was pretty strong at.
Yeah. You're saying this one wouldn't apply as much to you?
To me, no. But I can see like you get married too young and you just want to play video games all day, like, and that's not a no-go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some point, what is the scripture? A man becomes a man, he leaves the old way and the childish things behind.
Yeah.
And a marriage is an adult thing. You know, you're responsible, especially as a man, you're responsible for the other person now, under your protection, supposed to be under your providence. Even other things like their emotional security, so many different things that you don't really think about until you actually get married, that you are not responsible for.
Yeah.
To me, it was a blessing. So,
bless you, child.
Amen.
All right.
We'll do the next one. Conflict and disagreements with their spouse.
How are we doing on time? We are at 33. We're doing 9 o'clock?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Let me see if I have anything on feeling trapped or constrained. So what's some examples of marital responsibility? So whatever these responsibilities, you said you were pretty
I think
excited
the biggest
about.
one is like, hey, I can't just go do whatever I want. I gotta let them know, hey, what are you doing? Hey, do you need anything?
Yeah.
What are the plans for this? A big part of it is how are we working as a team, as a partner?
Got it. So planning, plans. Any other responsibilities that were
I mean, providing. I mean, I think date nights are a huge thing. To make sure that your responsibility of making sure the romanticism stays alive. I think many men don't realize that's an important factor.
Yeah.
You shouldn't stop taking your girl out, shouldn't stop doing things. I even argue a lot of people should learn flirting because it's not something you do just to get a girl. You should be flirting with your wife till the day that y'all pass or whatever. You got to keep the love alive. That's your responsibility. I mean, it's not yours alone, but it's something new that you have to take on. I mean, at least if you want to have a happy and successful marriage. Hey, what do you think?
I am trying to fathom a situation that I would feel trapped.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we're just meant to be men. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing to us.
Yeah.
None of my business. Let's go to the next one for time then.
All right. Well, then let's go to the single side.
All right.
Why single men hate being single? Is that
That's the same thing as one.
all right? All right, go to 3.
Okay.
Ooh, that's
Social
good.
pressure or stigma associated with being single. This is huge for me. So I would say up until even recently, I had an insecurity of me being able to even get into a relationship or get a woman, right? The ability and the skill to be able to get into a relationship or get with a girl that you find attractive. That was a huge, huge insecurity for me.
Recently, do you say until recently? You would say recently, as in like months or weeks, months? Or are you talking about years?
I'll say months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though so break that down. I know you have a secondary part to the whole thing, but
so
okay. So
I think I would focus on getting into a relationship and finding someone because deep down I had an insecurity that I wasn't good at it or that it was super hard for me.
Yeah.
Which obviously wasn't true when I finally had to sit myself down and just think about my past or whatever. But so I would work on it so hard because if it's going to take a while for me to get that, then I better start now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I should always be engaged and looking because, this is I guess I just lack the confidence and ability in myself, right? So I made me always want to be in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was in a relationship, I was like, whew, okay, like I felt relief. Like, hey, I'm not single, I don't know where I got that from either, to be thinking about that. Like you're weird or you don't have the skill or you're just not enough as a man if you're single. You know what I mean? I think that's something I felt for a while.
Yeah, and maybe I misunderstood you but I thought I heard you say the doubt of getting into a relationship with an attractive woman. You just overcame that recently?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I would say just a woman. I don't think it has to be attractive. I mean, obviously, I've never been with a woman I wasn't attracted to, obviously, but yeah.
Right. And it's interesting hearing from you because, again, I know people who haven't been in relationships for years.
Yeah.
At all, right? And then I talk to you, and you've been in relationships. You've had girlfriends.
That's what I had to finally sit down and tell myself. Yeah.
So you had the proof of clearly I'm able to do this, but the belief hadn't caught up to the proof.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
And other people, I would say you ain't got no proof. So the belief may be even valid for them, saying, yeah, you might not be able to, or at least you haven't been able to yet.
And that sounds like terrible advice, especially coming from a Christian perspective. You know, you should find your fulfillment in Christ Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you as a Christian, you should be dating intentfully. And I believe that's something that society lacks today. Is
Yeah.
not dating intentfully. But unfortunately, I definitely have that confidence because of my past experience. I would say work that I've put into my social ability or whatever, which is kind of unfortunate. But I don't know. What do you think?
Wait, so you have the confidence, now you have the confidence that you can get into a relationship with an attractive woman.
Yeah, 100%. Especially now.
But weren't you able to do it before you would say you had the skills that you have now?
Yeah, so I finally had to sit down one day, and I was like, why do I feel like this? What has my past shown me?
Yeah.
And yeah, I've consistently felt like I've been in relationships or talked to women in a romantic way or setting. Especially, I would say the past couple of years, almost more than I haven't. And yeah, so I just tell myself, like, hey, you not only are you capable of this, you've done it, you've proved it.
Yep.
So why do you feel the need to continue to prove this to yourself? This is immature. This is going to just damage not only myself, but my love life and me actually being able to find the one that hopefully I can marry. I don't want to ever get into a relationship because of insecurity. I want to get into a relationship because I believe this is someone that's going to be good for my relationship with God.
Yeah.
My relationship with, obviously with myself, my future family,
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question would be, what if someone doesn't have that experience? Because what I've learned about self-esteem from psychologists, is that from what I've seen, self-esteem is two different things. One is obviously the thinking side, right? Which I didn't have up until recently. Hey, I believe in myself. Telling yourself positive things, changing your negative thoughts into positive ones. But then the other side of self-esteem is that part of being able to actually be capable of something, actually having the proof there to back up your self-esteem. So like from a Christian perspective, like what advice would you give me at 21, 22 who didn't have that?
Who didn't have the confidence, didn't have you would say the skills
Experience.
or the experience to look back on. And
because this is definitely something young people struggle with. How could they be confident in something they don't have the experience on? But I don't want young people to go out there just trying to get with a bunch of girls so they can have confidence and prove it to themselves, because it's extremely detrimental.
I think learning to behave in a way that's contrary to how you feel is an important life lesson for anybody, probably especially for men. Can you behave in a way different from how you feel? Or can you behave in a way different from your insecurity? Okay, I feel insecure about talking in front of public, but can I still talk in front of public even though I feel this way? I feel insecure about approaching a woman. Can I still approach a woman even though I feel insecure? I feel insecure about trying to be in a relationship with a woman. Yeah, so I think the skill, is being able to behave in a way that's different from how I feel. And then if you want to wait, if you do that enough, if you behave in a way that's different from how you feel. So I think it's an interesting conversation, because I think I've looked back in my own dating journey before even I was married, and I've never considered myself extra attractive. It wasn't like I was like, oh yeah, like my hairline, even as like 8th grade, it wasn't like a great hairline. You know what I'm saying? Like, or the symmetry of my face, it wasn't whatever symmetry, or my nose is bigger than probably I would have designed it, right? Like all of these things, I would look at maybe physical features that I wouldn't have picked out if I was making a custom me or whatever. But
The Sims.
And that's like so many games that you can custom create yourself or whatever. But the idea was, when I look back, I saw myself behaving in a way that was as if I did believe. that I had something to
Yeah,
offer.
I remember you talking. You had some Riz action in high school. I don't know, that's what I heard. The
That's what you heard.
from them streets.
So, which again, interestingly enough,
You're also 6'2", right? So.
I feel like I'm like a modest 5'11". With the boots on Sunday, I might have looked like 6'1".
You're taller than me,
Am I?
and I'm 6.
No, I might be right there, or maybe an inch younger,
Anyways,
and smaller. But I look back and I ask myself the honest question: did I ever have a challenge with? Did I ever not have options? And I think, by God's grace, by gift or what skills or whatever, I've always had options. Not saying I like those options, but there seemed to be always options when it comes to dating. Coming from somebody who didn't see himself as attractive, or you know what I'm saying? I can see that person. Oh, that person has a smile, or that one person has more symmetry in their facial hair, or this person has a better hairline, or I could see a bunch of things from other people going, I could see why people would like that guy. But then enough experience taught me is I saw people who had things that I would consider as superior to me, but for whatever reason didn't have the, quote, results or options that I had.
wow, I wish I would have compared in that sense, because I was just thinking about it right now. I think I compared myself not to people who looked a certain way or had what I thought made them attractive. I just compared myself to people who actually got girls or not. Now, when I compared myself to them, didn't matter to me what they looked like or didn't look like. In fact, it made it worse if they had qualities that I presumed wouldn't get a girl and they were still getting girls.
Yeah.
So then that made me even more insecure. So it's interesting how comparison, that was probably definitely the root of insecurity, but what I compared myself to actually probably destroyed my confidence and made it worse. So
Yeah. So to answer to your question about the advice I would give to somebody who doesn't have the experience and how they would go about approaching relationships, it's, can you practice behaving in a way different from how you feel or what you think, which is kind of all of those things of, I'm going to behave in a way that I think is effective, even if I don't feel that way or I don't think that way.
So would you encourage a Christian brother to just go talk to the Christian girls in the church, or like what? Because you said behave in a way. So what does that actually look like implementing it?
Yeah,
be careful not to get into temptation either.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would put this categorically in the church, as you know. Again, ICOC, Mission Point, the church that I was in. It was the culture I was raised up. I don't know if this culture persists today among the younger people, like campus ministry or teen ministry, or even singles ministry or young professionals. But the culture I was raised in is we would often go on dates. We would the men would go on encouragement dates. So I think I entered into this culture not knowing, oh, cool, this is kind of cool. Like, so in other words, I incidentally got practice without even knowing it. Going into it thinking, oh, this is the selfless thing to do to encourage
because
the ladies.
There's no pressure on it. I'm sure you were more naturally yourself and having fun, and probably gave you positive feedback.
Yeah, I think all of those things probably contributed. I think the skill building perspective, I look back and I go, there's, because of just like discipleship, being a Christian, trying to live that out on an ongoing basis, like there was so much social training that happened, whether it's recruiting or relationships with girls or mentoring people who are going through a hard time. All of that, I think, was incredible training that I didn't look at it like that way at the time.
Right.
But I look back and go, oh, that's the reason that some of these things, that's the reason I have the skill set that I have, because it's just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of social interaction.
It kills me when I hear about ICOC and the way that they do the encouragement dates, and then I know we've already talked about this before, but then I'll see the church that I go to, the pastor will encourage men not to approach women there, but then they don't offer any solutions about how to date someone that's godly. Now, this church probably it's a very popular church, so it has less probably people that are about that walk than others. But I still think like there's a program. There could be some kind of program. Hey, this person's going to be in charge of this group, and you'll have leaders there, and they'll see where you're at spiritually, blah, blah, blah. And then we're all going to go out as a group together. Let's go out, 10 of us, to XYZ and just do an encouragement date. Like, this needs to happen in Christian churches. And I think instead what happens is people get together with someone who appears to be Christian, or shoot, maybe is just even there, has no intention of actually being Christian, but, you know, wants to find hey, it's a good place to meet a girl or meet people, whatever.
Yeah.
And they get into these relationships with people because there's no guidance at all there. And then and I'm sure there's positive things that happen too, but I feel like Christian churches got to have these programs. I say program, but, you know, some kind of thing where it encourages people to go out on dates, maybe in public with, you know, some type of guidance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, oh yes, they'll teach you all day in church, you know, the yoke not to mix, salt and light, blah blah blah. But you're like not helping any light or salt to come together. You know what I mean? Or however the phrase goes. And so I think it's a huge disappointment, because society, the future of Christianity depends on families.
Yeah,
depends.
For sure. What's the vibe then? So he's saying that to be protective of the women, so they don't feel like they're gonna be hit on at church.
So there will be him on stage, and he'll say, oh, for instance, the most recent example I can think of, hey, say what's up to somebody in the church or whatever, you know, say hi to that, not to that pretty girl though, or like, let's just make something be like a joke, or I'll be talking about something that maybe has to do with attraction or dating or something like that, and be like, oh, I didn't mean like, you know, but that doesn't mean you go up to a girl at church at the end of service or something like that. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to date another Christian person. Yeah. I'm not encouraging you to go up there and try to like raise her up and take her home or something like that.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you go talk to someone that goes to your same church? That should be the goal, I would think.
Yeah.
So I understand trying to protect the women, but come on, you got to offer a solution too if you want to continue this, you know, this legacy.
Yeah.
Or continue Christianity. So
real. Yeah, man. Well, good, man. I think we got to wrap up.
Okay.
Any closing words just to wrap up on singlehood?
Yeah.
Marriage.
Delete your social media. Get that gram, get the TikTok especially off of your phone. I'm telling you, it's bad for you. But yeah, I think a lot of the things that we've been talking about seems traditional, you know?
Trad wife, trad husband, trad marriage.
So I feel like the things that we've been talking about, society teaches you to do different. And yet consistently when you look at statistics, the way that the Bible calls you to live produces better results. And so anyone doubting God, doubting Christianity, doubting Jesus, I would just say, look at how the Bible calls you to live your life. Then go look at the statistics of people that are having the most success as far as happiness, love, marriage, less divorce rates, financially, pretty much all areas you could think of in life. And you will see a consistent way to live that is pretty consistent to a Bible that was written over 2,000 years ago of people who didn't have any technology at all. So, yeah.
Preach, bro. Preach. All right, y'all. See y'all next time.
About to go in. Hold up. I'm Christian. No.